Adobe finally brings Photoshop to iPad. We talk a lot about writing, and we round things out with some pretty cool app caps. All that and so much more because Rosemary Orchard is here. It's iOS Today.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of iOS Today is brought to you by Calm, the #1 app to help reduce your stress, relax your mind, and to help you sleep. Get 25% off a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/iOS Today. Welcome back to iOS Today. I am Mikah Sargent. This, of course, is the show where we talk about all things iOS. That's for iPhone, iPadOS. That's for iPad, watchOS. That, of course, is for the watch. tvOS. There's a TV back there. I don't know if it has an Apple TV connected to it, but who knows? And sometimes we also talk about CarPlay. I'm excited because today we have the co-host of Automators on Relay FM, as well as a prolific writer and all-around automation expert. It is Rosemary Orchard.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome back to iOS Today.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that I was not so terrible the first time around that people thought that I should be allowed back.
No, you were wonderful the first time around. In fact, Kevin remembered you from that time that you were on with Leo and Megan, and we were both waxing ecstatic about you coming back to join us. So thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you.
One of the reasons why it's fantastic that you're here is because I popped into the document this morning. We, of course, use a Google property of some sort to plan our shows. And I popped into the document, and there were all of these apps and services listed with links and prices, and everything was here. And I thought, oh my goodness, I need to have Rosemary Orchard on more often. This was great. I'm so excited. We've got so much to talk about.
Well, I'm very excited too. And I have to confess, I did do a little bit of cheating because, well, I love to write. I love cheating more. And there are some, well, in this case, why would I type out all of these app names again and the prices and the links to the App Store and stuff like that when I can cheat and get a little bit of automation to do it for me? So we'll get back to that later in the show.
Yeah, I'm really pumped too there because you are going to be saving me time going forward, and presumably Leo as well, if he makes use of this shortcut. We might have to share the shortcut with those out there, although it's a little bit specific, but I'm sure it could be adapted to help with people. But yeah, I reached out and said, we'd love to have you on the show. And what would you like to talk about? And you said, writing is a pretty good choice. We have had Jason Snell on the show, and he and I talked mostly about using Photos on iOS, the Photos app on iOS, but a little bit about, because this month is November, NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month. And so he talked a little bit about his way of writing and some tips about NaNoWriMo. But you have so many different ideas here for helping get writing done. And I think we should just jump right in. However you want to go about this, I want to hear all about your process, all about the apps and services you use, and then we can shame me for the very little stuff that I do whenever I'm writing in comparison. So let's dig in. What do you got for us?
Well, I'm going to start by attempting to share my screen through Skype, so please bear with me 1 second. Well, we get this done. And I'm going to start pretty much at the top here, which is with idea dumps, because I love to just dump ideas when I get started with writing. And I usually do that in MindNode. And so I can start with a great center topic, like, for example, Micah.
Oh.
And then I can go around and put other really useful ideas in here. And I don't really have to think about what topics go in what order or anything like that. I can just get writing. And then afterwards, I can switch over to this sort of outline-ish view.
Oh.
And I can just move things around and just, see what I like and see where I've come up with these ideas and rearrange things.
Uh-huh. Do you have one that you have done before that you'd be willing to share?
Yeah,
kind of,
I'm just wondering. Oh, they rearranged everything, of course. So I have been working a little bit on an outline for automating with OmniFocus.
Holy kabuki.
Yeah. And so I've just been dumping ideas in here. And I've been going through, and you can see I've got some beginner things, some intermediate, some advanced. And the other thing I like about MindNode is it has a presentation mode. Now, that's kind of difficult to demo here today. But essentially what it means is that I can just show this on an external monitor without any of these, menus here or up in the top left-hand corner. And it can also zoom into a specific level and stay fixed there while I'm typing or working somewhere else. And then I can unfix it and it will move afterwards. And that's just something I find really, really useful, because when you start writing, sometimes you just have ideas and you don't have an order yet. And until you get those ideas down, you can't come up with an order. It's almost impossible. And this is just a really nice way. It doesn't force any kind of order on you. It does offer a hierarchy. And MindNode is pretty too. So you can
I was going to say
change
that.
themes.
Can you print this out? Or it can be shared that way?
Yeah, so I have a bunch of these printed and stuck on my wall at work for different projects that we're working on. And it comes with a ton of, nice built-in themes, including, good old-fashioned grayscale, something a bit brighter, something a little darker. Even comes with a Blackboard theme if you want to pretend that you've written everything on a Blackboard.
Can I ask you something quite quick with Blackboard, or actually with any of the templates? Are you able to adjust the typeface that is used in the template? So I love the Blackboard theme, but not a big fan of that chalk duster typeface. Are you able to make adjustments to that?
What you can do is you can actually create your own themes, and you can extract one from a document. So for example, if I go here, and now what I should be able to do is change chalk duster to something like Rockwell. And then I can actually go back, and I'm going to fail to find the option now. There we go. I can extract this theme from my document.
And you can call it Micah's nitpicky chalkboard theme.
Exactly. So you can do whatever you like with this. I'm just going to switch this back to my personal theme that I created, which is essentially all I did here is I took, I believe it was the Elegant theme, or maybe it was Delight, and I just made the background white just because that's a little easier on my eyes.
Yeah.
And especially if you want to print it out, you don't want gray backgrounds or something that looks a little bit odd. And
you could also use a lot of ink that way. Another question with the printing option, is it possible to print it out across multiple pages, or is it just shrunk to one page at a time?
It's, I believe, just shrunk to one page at a time. So if I export it as a PDF, then, we don't need to do that. There's a print option right here. Then theoretically, if I selected a printer, this is probably not going to work very well because that is a label printer.
Gotcha.
Hence why we have such a weird aspect ratio for this paper,
right,
because that is one of the labels in my label printer. Yes, I have a label printer with AirPrint. Don't judge.
That's pretty awesome.
That's me for you. So it will scale it down to one page. But what you could do is you could just print it out, say in landscape, on a larger piece of paper as a PDF, and then you could use one of those online services that are out there to split it onto multiple pages.
Yeah.
It won't be as great quality, but if you just want to stick it on a wall, then
in fact, the little pro tip here possibly to include is if you export it as a PDF, and it does come, it's a full-size document, not PDF, but Adobe's Acrobat. I think even the reader has it. I don't think you have to have a Creative Cloud subscription for this, but definitely the Adobe Acrobat DX, or whatever it's currently called, has a print option that will split it up across multiple pages. So you could export it as a PDF and then use that to print it out and have a big old. I keep covering your face with my hand. I'm sorry. I'm very gestury. I'll try to gesture down. But we're both doing gestures. Now I think that I have to obnoxiously cover my entire office wall in MindNode documents is what's going to have to happen. So thank you for this.
Well, I really like MindNode, and it has options to do top-down diagrams as well. But I personally find that this is the best option for me. There's another one which I've linked, which we can always share with the audience, called iThoughts, which is also a mind mapping document or mind mapping application, and is very good. In many ways, it's more powerful than MindNode. However, it's just not as pretty.
And it costs $12, whereas MindNode is free, yes?
Well, there is a free version of MindNode, and then there is an in-app purchase for it. So I've forgotten exactly how much the in-app purchase is, and mine is going to be in UK pounds.
It looks like $14.99 to unlock the full app in USD. If you had a MindNode 4 app, then it is $9.99 to upgrade.
Yes, but MindNode is also on the Mac, and it's part of Setup on the Mac as well, as is iThoughts. So, and it's just as pretty on the Mac, though it's not as fun because you can't touch the things.
And for folks who don't know, Setup is this incredible subscription service that lets you, you pay one monthly subscription and you get access to a whole suite of Mac apps that are among the best. I mean, they're really great apps. Bartender's included in that, I think, right? That's one of the first apps I downloaded before anything else. I had talked to Leo a little bit about that on iOS today. It basically takes your Mac menu bar and shrinks it down so that there aren't all those horrible icons up there clogging everything up. But to have these apps included as well, and I'm trying to think of some others that are in there that I use pretty regularly. But Setup is fantastic so that it is included. Now, that's just to have the Mac version, right? The iOS version is a separate purchase.
It is. And that's the case with most Setup apps. The one we'll get to later, Ulysses, actually includes their iOS app as part of the Setup subscription, which is very nice. So I know that developers are exploring ways to do this within the App Store boundaries because, of course, Apple has plenty of rules and guidelines as to what we're allowed to do. Yeah,
allowed to do and not do. MindNode free with IAP and iThoughts not free, $11.99 to kick it off. Now, so you said this is the first step of your process. I think, in speaking with Jason Snell before, one of the things that he talked about is when you are writing, you being the royal you, whomever, we have a tendency to edit ourselves, to self-edit. And I think that this idea dump, like you're talking about here, is a great way to sort of not pay attention to that and just let the ideas flow and then build this outline. It's almost magical to me. I can remember in school where we would learn about brainstorming and we would learn about mind mapping. And I was always annoyed by the process because I wanted to, we have to write an essay and they required you to follow all the steps to write the essay. You couldn't just skip right to the essay. And I remember being so annoyed that I had to do this mind mapping stage, that I had to do the outline, that I had to do all of these things before I could just get to the essay part because it was part of the grade, the rubric or whatever. However, after I would mind map and turn that into an outline, I was always surprised and delighted every time at the sort of magic that existed in that space to be able to take my ideas from nothing to something. And so while every time it was begrudging, me getting this done, it was almost like I forgot every time how great it was to then have these ideas mapped out for me. So now that I am much older than I was in elementary and middle school, I love being able to sort of have that mind map to work off of, and definitely value having that written down there. So these are great. And now what comes next in the process?
Well, this is the part where I show my screen again because I've just exported that document into OmniOutliner, which is my outliner app of choice. Okay. Now, in this case, I have done a little bit of research, but I've never found another outline application that I really find just works. And also, OmniOutliner has an automation console, which is definitely in my wheelhouse. So I have some custom scripts in there for example, when I produce videos, then it automatically adds some starts and end things to that and adds certain columns. But what I do once I've got my dump from MindNode and I've maybe done a rough pass at organization, I then export it to here. And this is then a totally different format and a totally new document. And so I keep everything. So I can always go back and reference something if maybe I decide, actually, this section on difficulty right here, I'm just going to delete this. Which I'm struggling to do because I'm having one of those days. There we go. But if I wanted to delete that, then later I could always just say, go back, over here and have a look and see, oh yeah, I had that section on difficulty. That might be a good idea to put that back in there. And so it's nice to be able to go back and reference past versions.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Which is another element that for me is really useful in switching applications as I go through my writing process, because it means that maybe I will delete things and remove things. And okay, some things are lost forever. With of course, assuming that I have no backups. Always have backups when you're writing. But then
backups on backups on backups.
Oh yeah, backups on backups on backups. But I can just go through here and I can add notes to things, which in this case, these have been imported from OmniOutliner. From MindNode, but I can go through and I can add as many notes as I want. I could have a whole column just for notes if I wanted to, which is really nice. And this looks very plain and boring. You can apply themes and so on here. This is an OPML document instead of an OmniOutliner document, which means that it doesn't have quite all of the features that you would have.
You don't have all the features that you would have if it was an OmniOutliner document?
Yeah,
is that
exactly.
What you mean? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so if I change this and then I can even create a template from the outline, there is an option somewhere. I'm having one of those days today where I'm going to forget exactly how everything works.
That's
I can
all right.
tell. But you are able to go back and to change this to be a proper OmniOutliner document. And then you have themes and also some pretty things that you can do. There's a select option. You can even theoretically filter and sort your rows. So if I was looking for something with, say, directories, then I can find all of those, which is very useful just to do that next step, change from having all of those just ideas anywhere and everywhere to a more structured outline, which is then a good process because I can see maybe that I've got some massive gaps in it, or maybe I've overweighed my content and I've got loads over here, but absolutely nothing over here. And then I can try and balance it out and improve it. And also changing format for me makes something click in my brain because I can see those things much more easily when I switch to an outline versus a mind map. But sometimes I only see things in mind map format.
Right.
So my brain's maybe weird, but I like it.
Yeah, I think I like it too. This is great. And so we go basically from, it's almost like a rough draft of your idea dump in MindNode or iThoughts, and then you are editing your rough draft by bringing it into OmniOutliner. And do you do when you bring it into OmniOutliner, do you do any additions to the content there, or is it simply just to better organize it before you move on to the next step?
It really depends on how good my mind map was. Sometimes my mind maps are amazing and wonderful and need no editing whatsoever. On the days when that happens, I pop open the champagne, celebrate, and consider my life accomplished. That rarely happens. I nearly always end up adding content. I'll probably delete some content. I definitely add notes, especially where I've got unclear headings. So if I had this idea that I was going to write about Automator, and then I realized, okay, but what could I write about Automator? I could go through and add 5 or 6 subheadings, or maybe I'll just add a ton of notes and I'll figure it out when I get to the actual writing. Because like you, I always hated this process when I was at school doing the mind map and then the outline. Number of times I cheated. I wrote the essay and then I went back into the outline and
That's
then I went
what
back
I
into
did
the idea
too. Oh, see, I'm doing it with your face again. I'm sorry. That's what I did too.
Oh my
yes.
Yeah, exactly. So we've all done it. We've all been there and cheated a little bit, and that's okay. It's fun.
We've made it. We're okay. We did it.
Exactly. We still passed.
Yes.
We're here today. We are successful and grown-up people.
Sometimes.
We're good at pretending to be it anyway.
There you go. That's the secret, folks.
So yeah, the trick for me is to flip the format and then fill in the gaps and maybe add some more gaps or remove gaps and just tidy everything up. But that includes definitely adding content.
Yeah. So I like this that, as you mentioned, a change in format can kind of help you better figure out where things need to be fixed. It reminds me of those sculptures or paintings or things like that, where you look at them from one side and they look one way, but you look at them from another side and they look another way. I think that the context switch with your brain is very good. In fact, I have for many years worked as a copy editor. And during that period of time, the copy editor that I learned from, she had this fantastic technique where when you are reading a paragraph, a sentence, anything like that, we have a tendency, our brains have a tendency, we have built-in autocorrect. And frankly, it's better than the stuff that iOS or Google offers. Our autocorrect is very good. And we will not pick up on errors, not pick up on mistakes because our brain autocorrects them for us. And so what she suggested is looking at a paragraph or a sentence or whatever it happens to be and reading it backward, word by word. If you read it forward, then the sentence flows and autocorrect turns on, but reading it backward changes it. So that little context flip helps you pick up on things. And I think the same thing applies here. When we are not seeing it in the same way after having gone through this outline, or the mind mapping process throughout the day, this is great. So yeah, I love that idea. Now, next on the list is an app that is near and dear to my heart, and so I'm glad it's on the list because this is the one that I use pretty regularly. In fact, I write my show notes for the different shows that I do in IA Writer, and when I worked at Mobile Nations, I used it to write most of the time. When I wasn't being a bad person and writing directly in the CMS, I was using IA Writer to write my articles there. So tell us about how IA Writer fits into your process. And this is an $8.99 is how much IA Writer costs, and by golly, it is worth every penny.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I actually use IA Writer most of the time when I am writing for Mac Stories, because when I write for Mac Stories, the system that we use means that everything is in Git, which is a version control system usually used for computer programs. Mm-hmm. Surprise. Mm-hmm. But we use it for writing because it's great. If somebody goes in and edits something, you can see exactly what was edited, and you're not dealing with Word's weird track changes feature, which is just weird and creepy and often gets things wrong. At least that's what it feels like to me, because I don't understand it. But I do understand Git. I'm a programmer and I love Git, which means that I use Working Copy on iOS. And Working Copy has a feature where you can have a folder and make that available to other applications like IA Writer. So I go through and I'll just write all of my article in IA Writer. So what I do, once I've got my outline, and my outline is as good as it's going to get, I created my own script actually for Omni Outliner, which exports it as Markdown headings. So a top level would be the H1, and then everything else under that will be H2, H3, H4, and so on. So I export that. Any notes come through as paragraph text, and then it looks like I've been doing a lot of work when in fact all I've been doing is an outline. But it gives me a really good starting point, and then I can go through and edit it. I can preview as I'm going, which I'd love to do, and it all syncs. And of course, because it's in iCloud as well, I can pick it up on my Mac. I can use IA Writer on my Mac, or if I'm feeling, crazy and out there, I might use BBEdit, because I love BBEdit.
BBEdit. I hear good things about it, but I don't know how it works or what all it does. I'm sorry.
I may have a little thing for that next week. Anyway, yes, keep an eye on Screencast Online. I think it's next week that it's coming out. Maybe it's this week. But I've just done a video on that, on breaking down BBEdit. If people are interested in a Mac editor for text, which, this show's not about. But anyway, but yes, IA Writer is available on iOS and Mac, and I just love it. It's very simple. It's easy to use. It, doesn't drive you crazy at any point, just shoving random bits of UI in your face. It's very minimalist. Mm-hmm. And for the things that I need it for, it works perfectly. I love it. I love all of the copy and paste functionality that it's built in. So Leo and I talked a little bit before about Markdown. It is a way for someone who is writing content for the web to not have to take their fingers off the keyboard too much. So it gives you the ability to add formatting to your document, be it HTML links, emboldened text, italicized text, all of those different types of normal formatting tools without having to take your hands off of the keyboard. So you get more writing done, and when you're looking back through your document, it's easier to see. So there's a little bit of an introduction to Markdown for those who might not know. What I love about IA Writer, and I know that this is available in other apps, but it clicked more for me with IA Writer, is that
I can copy the text as Markdown, but I can also copy it as formatted text, meaning that in rich text documents or apps and services like Google Docs or Microsoft Word or something like that, when I paste that text, then instead of having the Markdown symbols in it, it actually pastes it as bold or italicized text or hyperlinked things. And you can also copy it as HTML and paste it as HTML. All of that functionality that's built in there has been so helpful to me, depending on where I'm writing and what content management systems I'm using online. So when I used to write show notes for podcasts that I produced and published, like on my own, we would use Squarespace. We had a Squarespace site, and Squarespace is a little finicky with its Markdown and didn't used to have Markdown and all this other stuff. And so using IA Writer to write the show notes in the way that my brain thinks, because it does think in Markdown, that made it very easy to then copy and paste the formatted HTML where it needed to go. So IA Writer is near and dear to my heart and has been for a long time. And I also just like the focus mode and the different templates that are available within it. And I'm sure you love all of the opportunities for automation that are included.
Definitely. And it works really well because you can open documents that are in Dropbox and things as well. I discovered this morning because I really wanted to add a Dropbox folder to IA Writer, and I was getting so frustrated because it wouldn't work. And I did some digging around, and I'm very pleased to report this is not IA Writer's fault. It's Dropbox's fault.
Oh.
So send them angry email or polite email, please, kindly requesting that they make their document provider available as a folder sharing service as well as a file sharing service. Because I already did that. I'm
writing an email now, or maybe I'll have Siri write it for me.
Well, yes.
Now,
I was pleased to find out IA Writer is not at fault because that's been my only beef with the app. Yeah, that's been my only beef with the app, and I'm really pleased it's not their fault.
That is good. And Dropbox tends to not play well with others. I've had issues with it working just in iOS in general as a file sharing provider or whatever. You just said the proper terminology there. And even whenever it does, and I often have to go in and reauthorize, and it's a little annoying.
Yes.
Now, next up, I'm curious how you use this. I am maybe selfishly trying to find everybody who uses drafts and letting them tell me how they use drafts, because I think I should be using drafts. And every time someone tells me how they use drafts, I am amazed and think that this app is great. And I have it, but I have not been able to introduce it into my workflow. And so now I'm curious how you use drafts. Please, I need to know why this app is so great and why so many people use it. And let's see how you do.
Well, I'm just quickly preparing a document because this is the way that I can sell you on drafts, I hope. There we go. I have drafts open. So I use drafts for writing for the Suite Setup, writing for my own blog, writing guest posts for other people, be that for like the Relay FM newsletter or somebody else's website, all of that sort of thing. And I have built my own series of tools to make this easy. So, for example, when I created this note in drafts, or this draft in drafts, I did this with shortcuts, and I also saved it to Airtable on the way so I can keep track of everything, because then it ends up in my invoicing system and things like that. That's not so important for the writing side. But what is important is that I store the images in the same Dropbox folder as the actual article gets saved. Mm-hmm. So when I have this action, what this is actually doing is it saves this article as a Markdown file and as a HTML file into Dropbox. Okay. So I'm just going to edit this action to show you a little bit of what it does. That's saving it into both Markdown and HTML formats for me.
Okay.
And that just works. And it does that. And then that's in the right folder based on exactly the name here. So I've got a couple of images in that folder. So I can choose to insert one of these images. Or I could choose to insert all of the images. I'm not quite sure why they're coming through as .txt files. It's something I probably broke with Hazel earlier because I was playing with that.
Gotcha.
But I've got all sorts of things in here. So, for example, I used to email the folder links to Josh, who's one of the editors over at the Suite Setup. And so I had a quick action for that. Now I actually post these to Basecamp, which are the 3 entries below that. And this literally just lets me do things that would be like 10, 15 steps with one tap.
Yeah, the fact that right there in that folder, you've got all of your images and you can link up to them directly, that is something that's very powerful. So drafts, the way that it's been described to me before, or at least up to this point, was as a tool to sort of quickly pop in and then move on to the next thing. But you're writing within drafts. And I don't know why this is the first time I'm hearing about it being used as a writing tool, but that more fits how I would use it. So it's not just for, because some folks I've seen use it, they want to write a tweet. And instead of just going to Twitter and writing the tweet, they do it in drafts. And to me, I don't understand that. My Vulcan logic says that is illogical, and I don't want to waste the time for that. So up to this point, most often I had understood it as, and Matthew Casanelli was on, and he talked about using it as, an example was a reminder, and that was fine. But again, I could also just launch the Reminders app and type in my reminder as opposed to going to the drafts document. Maybe if there was some way that Apple, you could set up where when I swipe up from the home screen, please pop open, drafts automatically, then I could understand where, okay, now I want to send a tweet from this. I want to create a reminder. But those short text things didn't line up. But you're writing in it. Now, I'm curious, is that the more common way that drafts is used? Do you know? How do other people who use drafts, how do they use drafts? And is it more similar to your method, or is it the short text bits?
It's a real mix across the board. So for me, the key to making this work are the workspaces in drafts, because a workspace combines 3 things. It combines tags, which are a filter essentially. So you could also search for words. So for example, the word Pinocchio, or something. If you didn't have all of your Pinocchio related drafts tagged with Pinocchio. Don't ask me why you're writing about Pinocchio. I'm not going to judge you
Neither
for this,
will I.
but it's okay. And then the second thing it combines is an action list. And that is the list of automations that you saw on the right-hand side of my screen. And because you can create this action list yourself, either by downloading a finished action list from the drafts, from the action directory on the drafts website, or just manually putting things together in the order that you want, that is really useful. So for example, whenever I open the Suite Setup folder, it automatically switches to my Suite Setup action list, which are the ones that I'm going to need for doing that. So it's kind of like having multiple applications inside of one application. So I know if I'm writing, most of the time I open drafts and then I figure out what it is that I'm writing and where it is. So I also have a workspace for automators. And then the third part of this is the action bar, which is the extra bar above the keyboard row, where you can have, for example, links to make things bold in Markdown or italic in Markdown, or a list or a task list, and all sorts of things. And for me, that's what really works, because then I know all of my blog post ideas go into drafts. And exactly where they go, well, I can figure that out later. But if they go into drafts to start with, then I can figure out, okay, yeah, this is actually an idea for the Suite Setup. Well, this is more something that I might use as a guest post, or this is going on my website. Tag it, and then the next time I open that workspace, I have all of the items with those tags with my custom action group that does exactly what I want. So I have custom HTML previews that make things look like my blog, or make things look like the Suite Setup website, so I can see approximately what it's going to look like. And I just find it really useful for me. Not so much for really long form writing, though it has very good tools for that as well. So it has a split, a rearrange mode, it's called, where you can rearrange paragraphs. So if you have paragraphs like this and you actually say, actually, no, this one's going to come up here, you can do that. And you're not selecting large blocks of text and cutting and pasting it like
So if I'm writing
a crazy person.
I'm writing Pinocchio's story and I remember, oh no, wait, the whale thing happened after the curse. Then I can take that one paragraph about the whale thing and move it, and then the curse slides up and is first.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And that's what it's really good for. And you can also customize exactly how the drafts list looks for different workspaces and so on. But I just find it so useful because I know that most of my writing is right in there. And there's a Mac app as well, and they're actually betaing the actions in the Mac app right now, which is finally there because the Mac app was new this year. And they didn't have actions there to start with. And actions for me have been key, but I've still been writing quite a bit in Drafts and Mac.
See, even Drafts says, Drafts is a launching off point for text. I'm sorry, Drafts, that's not how I use it. I love you, but
that's what it was designed for. Because if you remember, back when iOS first launched, copy and paste did not exist.
Right.
But URL schemes did to send things to the Messages app or the email app. And so instead of starting something as a message and realizing this is way too long and very, very awkward to send as a message, but I don't have copy and paste on my iPhone, and you're there tapping all of this stuff into your phone. And then the other person thinks you're crazy because you sent them a 350-word iMessage.
Hey, you're coming for my brand here. I send essays and text messages.
That's what it's for. But yeah, so instead of doing that, you would write it in drafts, and then you could say, actually, this is definitely a message, or this is a tweet that I want to tweet at that person because I want them to be held publicly accountable for this, perhaps.
Well, and I guess sometimes I will type. I'll be having conversations with a friend, and then I'll realize that the thing I said is so brilliant and hilarious that I must share it with the world. And so to be able to write it in drafts, send it as a text message, and then I guess I could come back to that same draft and then say, oh, yeah, this needs to go out as a tweet too. Again, that's not really kicking up the parts of my brain that are excited. But seeing you writing... Seeing the document that you had in there, I think that's where this is of interest to me. So drafts, and it is free to start off. Of course, there is an in-app purchase or I think a couple in-app purchases to get more.
There's a monthly or a yearly subscription, but actually the vast majority of the app is free. It's only if you want to create your own actions or action groups and rearrange things in them, then that you would need that pro subscription. So it's well worth getting just for the free element, because you can download and install action groups. I've got a couple up in the action groups list. I've got a task paper for OmniFocus one, and I've got a crazy packing list set up, which uses emoji to organize things because emoji are awesome.
Well, I definitely need to get that one because I saw your name when I was going and looking, how do I use this app? Why is everyone so fascinated with it? And I was like, oh, well, there's Rosemary. Maybe there is something to this. And that monthly... Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I also use it to create project templates that I can then send to OmniFocus because it supports task paper format, which is really nice for having a plain text view of your tasks. And then you can shove it over to something else that supports it. There's a task paper app for iOS, or there's OmniFocus, which supports task paper import. And I like having all of that in there as well, just because it's in different workspaces. So it's in sub apps inside of the big Drafts app.
Gotcha. And by the way, that monthly pro subscription's only $2. So that's pretty good if you want to add your own action. So give it a go. And then if you decide, you know what, I want to take this a couple steps farther, then you could do that by buying the subscription. Alrighty. Next is the ultimate competitor of IA Writer. And it's interesting that you have them both on this list. So you have Ulysses here. Tell me about how you use Ulysses, you traitor.
I rarely use Ulysses. I'm going to give you this. So Ulysses is an excellent app, and I have a lot of friends who do a lot of writing in this. I tend to use Ulysses when, for some reason, I've started out with multiple Markdown documents, and then it turns out that I kind of need to work with them all together. Because Ulysses is excellent at taking multiple documents and allowing you to work with them kind of as if they were one document. And it supports images, and it can insert them, and it does some fancy things with the Markdown links to make them look a little prettier. That always messes with my brain because I expect it to look different. I'm used to the IA Writer and Drafts version where you see everything, and Ulysses tidies things up for me, which confuses me. But it's really useful for times like that. And also if I'm syncing with a folder in Dropbox. Ulysses supports that. IA Writer does not because... Ulysses is using Dropbox's API, whereas iWriter is using the Apple File Provider system. And there's no wrong answer here, but iWriter is right.
Yes, I agree with you there. Okay, so Ulysses is just every once in a blue moon you've got to use that. But
exactly, yeah.
I do know that people really do, that there are several people out there who are big fans of it. So I understand it's worth talking about in terms of how you are writing, and some people end up, it clicks for them that this is the tool. I've used both iWriter and Ulysses as well, and while I gave Ulysses a go a couple times as I heard about it from other people talking about it and things like that, I always came back to my iWriter friend, and the syncing makes sense to me there. Like you said, I don't want them to fiddle with, it's like going into someone's office and rearranging things because you think it's better. I don't want them fiddling with my links or anything like that, but some people don't mind it. And some people really appreciate Ulysses. So I have nothing against them. I just have everything against them.
Yeah, they're really lovely people. I've met the team multiple times, and they're super nice, and they make a great app. It doesn't work for me all of the time, but for the times when I need it, it's there for me. So it's good to have. And it's part of Setup, and the iOS app is included with the Mac app in Setup. So providing you launch the Mac app, I think it's like once a month, then you get free access to the iOS app as well. Which is how it stays in my rotation, I have to say, because I don't think I use it enough really for the subscription, but it's a very good app.
Yeah, and I have to say their icon is really pretty. The little butterfly with the pen is nice. Now, this next one there it is, for folks watching, for folks listening, we have a nice, beautiful yellow butterfly. And then atop the yellow butterfly, instead of sort of where the head would be, it is a fountain nib point. I think it's just called a nib. But
fountain pen nib.
Fountain pen nib. Thank you. You are more of a pen nerd than I am, yes?
Little bit, tiny bit.
Kinda?
I have a small collection of fountain pens.
Okay, you're one of those. I have a few, and I appreciate the fountain pen, but I am not quite a collector. I assume that's going to happen at some point in my life.
Probably.
Yeah, it seems to happen to those of us in this little corner of the internet. The next tool has a great name. It's fantastic even, because it's called Textastic. It's $9.99 in the App Store. And why do I need to buy this one?
Well, for a lot of people, you might not need to buy it. This is much more of a writing code tool than it is a writing tool. That said, it does support Markdown, plain text as well. So you could use it as just a plain old writing tool. It does integrate with working copy if you are doing stuff with Git things, but it can also connect to FTP, SFTP servers. So if you need to edit stuff on servers in places, then it's really good at that. And I like using it to edit my automation scripts for OmniFocus and OmniOutliner mostly at the moment. It's just really good for those. So
okay, cool. So this is for the folks who need it. This is a great tool for doing that. And yeah, sometimes you do need to get some code writing done on iOS, and so there you go. We have a couple more to talk about, and then we'll talk a little bit about my minuscule setup in comparison, because I don't do as much writing as I used to. But before we do that, I do want to take a moment, breathe in and breathe out, because this episode of iOS Today is brought to you by Calm. If you're having a hard time focusing, I think we all can relate to that. It's no surprise why. We're constantly staring at screens. We're multitasking. Yeah, heard of that. And binge watching. Okay, are you calling me out? I think you are. We are living in a hyper-connected and overstimulated world. And it makes the world pretty stressful. That's why you should download Calm, the #1 app for meditation. Calm is a fantastic app that helps you get some peace when you need it, and helps you take your mind off of the stress. In fact, daily, if you launch the Calm app, you can listen to the Daily Calm. And so we're going to play a little bit of that. This is called Emotional Roller Coaster.
Welcome to the Daily Calm. I'm Tamara Levitt, and in today's session, we'll explore how to soften anxiety in moments of high stress and tension.
Yes.
Start by finding a comfortable position. Now let's take a few deep inhales and exhales to help release any stressful thoughts, distractions, or anticipations.
Now that's Tamara Levitt, and she joins you every day with the Daily Calm to, in this case, help you with your emotional roller coaster. But there are all sorts of topics that get covered in the Daily Calm. And starting your day with that, frankly, can get you off to a good start. You know, a lot of us will have some caffeine in the morning to get going. And with caffeine can come a little bit of jitteriness. So if you can compare those two together, you go ahead and have your caffeine, but then you listen to your Daily Calm and you find that sort of inner peace, then maybe you're not as overstimulated when you get to work. It turns out that meditation, as we've come to find out, actually changes your brain chemistry. Meditation has been shown to slow down the release of stress chemicals into your bloodstream. That's cortisol and adrenaline. So it gives you some much needed relief. And in fact, the World Health Organization has named stress to be the health epidemic of the 21st century. As a society, we're feeling more uncertainty and anxiety than ever before for many reasons. And with Calm, you're going to discover a whole library of simple, guided meditations on themes like anxiety, creativity, and focus. One of my favorite things are the sleep stories that are included with Calm. These include stories for kids, but also stories read by like Nick Offerman, for example. And there are even some ASMR titles in here that can be pretty great. So you can fall asleep while listening to The Velveteen Rabbit or Happy Little Z's with Bob Ross. Yes, that's right, Bob Ross, which is just fantastic. Getting to fall asleep with Bob Ross as he's working on a painting is quite nice. That, of course, is just one of the many options that are available. Meditation is the big thing here. And you can see across the top of the app, we've got all of these different subjects, relationships, personal growth, even meditations for kids. You know, one of the big things with meditation is that by practicing, you get better at it. Your body responds even better. You get calmer faster. And by doing it regularly, then you can learn those skills. And so along with, like I said, the sleep stories, they include some music in here. There's a remake of that popular Sam Smith song that is much longer and is meant for sleep. There are liminal sleep songs. I've mentioned before that Above and Beyond, which is a band that I like to listen to every once in a while, they have a whole album in here. Here's Sigur Rós, which is genuinely one of my favorite bands. They're an Icelandic band, and their songs, their albums already are very good to fall asleep to. But they have a specific album just for falling asleep and meditating. Right now, if you'd like to check out Calm, iOS Today listeners get 25% off a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/iOS Today. That's calm.com/iOS Today. There are 50 million people who have downloaded Calm, so it's no wonder that it is the app for meditation, for sleep, and for relaxation. You can find out why so many people have downloaded this app and why I use it to fall asleep at night by heading to calm.com/iOS Today. Thanks so much to Calm for sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today. We can breathe out now. We've had our meditative break, and we thank you, Calm. All righty, let's get back into things. Do you feel calm now?
I do.
Good.
I feel very calm.
Excellent. Now, Scrivener, this is a tool that I have heard a lot about as well, but this tool is a little bit, this is outside of my scope for sure, I think. Scrivener, it's my understanding was it created as a tool for, is it book writers and script writers, like transcript writers for shows, for screenplays? Tell me about Scrivener, because I've heard plenty, but I don't exactly know what it's for.
Well, as far as my memory serves me, it was created as a tool for National Novel Writing Month because the original developer couldn't find anything that they were really happy with. And the idea of it is in a similar manner to you can have the groups in Ulysses. You can also have break down your document into multiple sub-documents inside of Scrivener. And I've written an entire book in Scrivener and published it last year. And it worked really, really well for that because that's what it's designed for. It has this note card view where you can sort of view all of the pieces in that section as titles with your notes on them. Surprise, surprise. That's why it's called a note card section. And it has this cute, slightly gimmicky corkboard style background if you want, or you can turn it to something more minimal and plain. But I found it really good for writing a long form document. And in this particular case, I actually wrote it collaboratively with a friend who was in Japan.
Whoa.
So we had to communicate across multiple time zones. Japan is like way ahead. So I think it's like 2:00 in the morning there right now, and it's 7 p.m. here. And so my friend Brian would be writing all day, and then I'd get up and I'd write all day, but we didn't want to have to waste lots of time communicating as to what we'd done. So we actually used this tagging system inside of Scrivener, where we could tag different sections as I'm working on them, or, hey, could you take a look at this? And then we had smart folders where we could just click into it and go, okay, so Ryan actually wants me to take a look at all of these. And we could write comments to each other or just edit things straight away. It has styles built in. You write in rich text, which for people not familiar with Markdown and who don't want to write in HTML but need something more than plain text, it's really great.
Wow.
And it works really well.
Scrivener. Well, that app is $19.99 in the App Store. It is definitely a pro app. It is, but it is a tool that works well for the folks who need the stuff that's available there. Those note cards, and I know people who are, like I said, writing books, writing screenplays and transcripts and things like that. In fact, one of the screenshots that we're showing is in that very particular screenplay format, which the name escapes me, but those things have to be written in a certain way and with certain formatting, and Scrivener makes that easy to do. So again, for the people who need something like that, it's definitely an app worth checking out. And then we've got something, how's this pronounced? Aeon? Timeline?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I think it's Aeon timeline, but I'm not sure. So Aeon timeline, they have a really good sample. So I'm just going to open that. Hopefully this is opening. There we go. And now I can share my screen as well, where you can break down your book. And this syncs with Scrivener as well on the Mac. You can break down your entire book into a timeline. And so you can see exactly what happens when and where. And this is Murder on the Orient Express, which is one of their example versions. So you can see we've got the timeline going across, but you can also view it as more of a grid view. And so you can see which people are involved and what happens when. And it's just really useful.
Holy moly.
Yeah, and it's great. I love the fact that it syncs with Scrivener. And I have also used this. I'm just going to open my university course from last semester here. So I had all these different blocks that I needed to complete and when I needed to complete them. And I just found it really useful to be able to break this down in a visual format. So I could see, like, if I get behind, how badly behind am I going to be here?
Right. Oh my goodness. And I love the fluid as you zoom, then it starts to break those down even farther. That's great. It's like fluid.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's just really nice for things like that because you get this overview and then you can zoom in on the different sections.
Now, how much work did you have to do to actually get those into the app? I mean, did you basically have to rewrite everything yourself, or were you able to automate that process as well and have the app sort of parse it out and figure out how it was split up?
Off the top of my head, I'm not actually remembering. I think I may have done this one on iOS. So there was unfortunately, the iOS app has fewer automation possibilities. But I know that you can import, I think it's a CSV file on the Mac.
Okay.
And so you can import things like that. But honestly, it wasn't that much work to add something. If you tap on add event, then you can specify your color. You can specify your start date and end date. If you specify an end date, you can choose, for example, a year. And then it will automatically calculate that duration for you.
Gotcha.
And you can specify that something has to happen before it. So, for example, block 1 must happen before it, and that's a dependency. And you can always go back, and depending on how you set it up, you can do the backwards or forwards options there.
Cool.
Which is really nice. And I just find this is useful. Again, going back to that trick of give yourself a different view for these things. So that you can see where maybe something's missing. So, for example, if you're writing a book like Murder on the Orient Express and you miss a day,
you got problems.
Your readers are going to notice that. Even if you don't notice that and think that it's not important, your readers will, and your editor probably will at some point, and go, hey, what's happened with this missing day here? Did you steal the time turners from Harry Potter and get it wrong? Or
because we haven't licensed that IP, and so that will be an issue for us.
Exactly. So
wow.
It's nice.
Yeah, that's a very, very cool app. I like the idea. Again, I think if you're writing books or you found a way to use it outside of, and then they even include, I guess, project management, case management, things like that.
Yeah.
The idea of being able to say, okay, I have this course and I need to know how far back I'm falling if I skip this or skip that. That's pretty great. However, it's pronounced Aeon, Uon, Amon. It's AEON Timeline, available in the App Store, also for $19.99. Alrighty. Let's talk a little bit about my process, or I guess I'll just bring up a few apps and that I use when I am doing different things. So I talked a little bit about iWriter as the main app for my text editing. But these days, doing a lot less writing, one of my favorite tools to use is TextEdit on the Mac. TextEdit on Mac OS is I use it in the plain text version, and it is my tool for... I don't use a clipboard manager. I've just not set up my workflow for that. And so I just like the idea of being able to, if I need to stash some things, I stash them. I always have a text edit document open on my Mac, and I just sort of stick things there. And if I need to go back and pull something, then that's where I get it from. But it's also, I will write out notes and things like that in there. As I mentioned, I am a bit of an essay writer, even in messages. So if there's a long iMessage that I need to send, I will type it out in TextEdit first and then send it. Again, I'm just weird, I guess. And then notes for iOS and macOS. That continues to get more powerful. I don't like the formatting functions that are available in Notes. I don't really want anything being done to my text, and so I don't use Notes a whole lot. But for easy to-do lists and things like that, or not to-do lists, but like shopping lists, I will use Notes. And it is also another place where I will store information when I need to. And I used it back whenever I was doing the Somehow I Manage podcast with Tiffany Arment, which, by the way, is still going on, just not with me. And you should definitely go listen to it if you haven't, if you like The Office. But I would watch the show and then I would use Notes to take my notes because it was an easy iPad app to use to just have that. And then whenever I went to go sit down to actually do the show, I'd pull up Notes on the Mac and I knew I could count on it to sync and everything was there. So yeah, it's kind of arbitrary. And it was just like at the time when I needed a tool, I started using that and then it became part of my workflow. And so I stick to those. But outside of that, like I said, iWriter has been with me from the get-go and I still use it to this day. Now, Rosemary, before we move on to news, I wanted to give you a shout out for you gave me a present. You gave me a gift that I saw in, I can't remember. Oh, we were messaging in Slack and you said, I created a shortcut. And I was like, shortcut. I wonder what this shortcut's going to be for. And then you were like, it's for you. You could use this to easily get the apps from the App Store. And then actually tell me what this shortcut does. And then I can celebrate it even more.
Wonderful. Okay, so it starts by asking you for the name of an app or the name of multiple apps. And then when you run it, it will break that up. So if you've got multiple lines, it goes for each line. And then it looks those up in the App Store for you. So you select whichever one it is, and then it formats it, in this case, in the format needed for the Twit show notes. And so that will do an app name and then a tab followed by the price and then a tab followed by the URL. Which means, and it puts it on your clipboard for you. And so then all you have to do is open that fabulous Google application and paste.
And it will automatically put it into the proper cells in the app.
Because of the tab spacing.
Oh, that's so wonderful. See, it's simple things like that. That way, like it's simplified down to that, but it's a thing that takes time when you're doing it, and to be able to take that and just go, you know what, let's just make this super simple, especially the fact that you considered a way to do multiple apps at once. That's beautiful, wonderful, lovely, and I thank you.
Well, I'll let you in on a secret. It started because I had a list of apps in the show document, and I was there going, oh, darn it, I need prices and links for these. Okay, well, I guess I'll just make a shortcut. Awesome.
See, that's great. We could benefit each other with that. So I thank you for that. That was a super cool surprise this morning. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the news. Thank you for sharing everything with your writing process. And I love that in-depth look at things and all those different apps that you use. That was great. Up first, Adobe has been promising Photoshop on iPad for a long time, and it is finally here. Folks have been using it for a couple of days. Did it just come out yesterday? I can't remember. But folks have been using it, and there are some differences between Photoshop on iPad and Photoshop on the Mac. But for the most part, you're getting a pretty similar experience, which I found delightful. That I, don't have to make too many compromises when I am working with Photoshop on iOS. Now, do you use Photoshop? Have you used Photoshop? Does this excite you?
So in many ways, this does not excite me at all because I don't really use Photoshop. It was too pricey for my personal usage when they switched to the Creative Cloud model, unfortunately. $20 a month for something that I maybe use once every 6 months was not going to happen.
Right.
Though it does mean, of course, I can just buy it those once every 6 months if I need to. But for my dad, who uses Photoshop all the time, it's amazing because he can actually do all this stuff on his iPad now, and he really likes to do that. And the Apple Pencil, I feel, is a much more direct way of interacting with your photos. The mouse or trackpad feels kind of removed, so it's really good to have that. And so I set him up with that this weekend, actually, when I was visiting, and he seemed intrigued. Though skeptical that because we've all been burned by Adobe apps before on the iPad, claiming that they're as good as they should be, and they have not been. But he said he's going to give it a go. And from the playing that I did, I was impressed with it. It seemed to be able to do everything that at least my dad says that he does all the time. And I mean, he does light photo editing that he does in Photoshop because he knows Photoshop rather than anything else. But yeah.
So I was a freelance graphic designer for a couple of years ago, and I still to this day use Photoshop pretty regularly for those kinds of things, graphic design stuff, not so much photo editing, except when I'm doing funny jokes and I want to like do a silly Photoshop photo manipulation. But because I use Photoshop, some of the newer tools that are available and some of maybe even the less powerful tools that would work for me, I just find I might as well use Photoshop because I know it so well. And so because of that, I, of course, am pretty pumped about the fact that we have it now on the iPad. And like you said, the manipulation with the Apple Pencil directly is really nice. And there's my beautiful lorem ipsum. And I'm excited about this. I have not had the opportunity to get super into it yet because there just hasn't been a reason for it. Why is Gotham not on here? I need to add Gotham as a typeface, but Anyway, I so far have been delighted with it, and it works with even some pretty thick, and by thick I mean multiple layered documents. It can do some great crunching of pretty big documents, which I found to be quite refreshing because it really does feel like full powered Photoshop on the iPad. And yes, we have been burned before, and there are plenty of reasons why we should be skeptical. But to start things off, it's pretty awesome that this is being done, and they're going to continue to work on it, continue to make it more powerful. In fact, one of the things that's listed whenever you first launch the app is, hey, help us make this better. You know, what are your suggestions for it? I'm trying to figure out now why this text looks so, it's probably because I was not at 100%. The text looked horribly fuzzy. Yeah. So anyway, I'm excited about it thus far and interested to see how it continues to improve. And most importantly, what it's going to be like to sync between the Mac app and the iOS app, because Adobe's all about the cloud. They are all about their Adobe Sensei AI product and using all of those tools together to create the stuff that you want to create. So yeah, that's Adobe Photoshop. It's finally here. They've talked about it for a long time, and I'm excited it's here. Excited to next time someone in. Basically, how it would happen is I was either in Slack having a conversation with friends, or I was in the middle of an iMessage exchange having a conversation, and someone would say something that then I would say, that'd be really funny to do some sort of Photoshop of. And so then I would quickly hop over to my Mac, do the Photoshop up right quick, and then send it, and then we'd have a little laugh and, move on. If I could do that from the device that I'm already talking to the person on, I think that's going to be fun. So that'll make my stupid jokes a little bit easier to make. And outside of that, actually using Photoshop when I need to for real work is exciting as well. Illustrators will be excited to learn that Adobe Illustrator is next. Adobe at Adobe Max said, hey, we've got Photoshop here. We want you to be able to use what they seem to be saying is, their whole suite of tools as they actually are, and not these mobile what is the word? They're apps that aren't quite as fully powered, but now we really want you to have the full kit and caboodle available on the device. And so yeah, Illustrator should be on its way soon. It'll be better than Adobe Flip, Adobe Flonk, Adobe Fio. I can't remember what it's called.
Flail?
Yeah, sure. Adobe Fail, Adobe Flume. Whatever it is, it's their current Illustrator-like service that is not actually Adobe Illustrator. And this is going to be far more powerful and be the actual thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing that ship soon. And then a new app. How big are you into AR? Do you play around with AR very often?
Every so often, there's a couple of great games where you can set up, I've forgotten what it's called now, but basically you can set up a mini obstacle course on your floor, and then you can drive a car at it and knock everything over. That's basically what I do with AR. It's really great when you're stuck at home sick because there's not a lot that you can do, but you're lying on the sofa and, you're pointing your iPad at the floor and it's just, lining up all these dominoes. And then put a couple of marbles in there, build these crazy things, but you don't have to get up and clean everything up afterwards.
Wait, what is this app? I don't think I've heard of this.
I've forgotten what it's called, and I'm struggling to find it. I'm looking for it right now.
While you look for it, I'll talk about. So I launched Aero, and it starts with a tour. This is for building. I don't know why is this sideways? It is for building apps that I don't think it knows. What is happening? Okay, so it is mirrored for some reason, so I'm going to call that a big bug. But yes, it is for building AR experiences. I'm going to add a digital asset here. Oh, we've got some starter assets, including some toys, like a toy robot, which we can place on this. I don't understand why it's not facing the right way. But we place the robot. Now tap and hold the asset to drag it where you want it. Okay, I'd like to move it up here. Use 2-finger pinch. I already did that. to change the size. Use 3 fingers to lift it. Oh, whoa. Can lift it off the ground. And we'll add another asset. The huge display that goes in the background. Now let's make the robot dance. Well, I wish I could, but you took it off my screen, so I can't make the robot dance. This clearly is a very buggy app. I don't think I'm running a beta, so I can't really show you how this works because I can't find the robot now. It just disappeared. Yeah, that's great. Cool. It's not even letting me back out of the... There we go. We backed out of the tutorial. I don't know what happened there, but it got mad at me and did not work properly. But that is Adobe Aero. So Adobe, if you could... Oh, I think it's working this time. All right, let's try this again. Right quick. I can go faster. So we drop the toy. Boom. Now drag it where I want it. Yes. Zoom. 3 fingers to lift it. Drop it down. And then we'll add the toy box thing in the background. We don't want that there. We want it here. There we go. Now I can tap on the robot, add a behavior, which is when I touch it, please spin. I wanted to make it dance. And now we choose preview. And I'll record a video, of course, access my microphone, and boom. Oh, awesome. Oh, it only works once. I guess you have to set a repeat feature if you wanted to do it more than once. All right. Now it's saved and I could share it with other people. That is Adobe Aero for now. It is not a full-featured, it is made for mobile devices, but they show how you can use it to share AR experiences with other folks and kind of collaborate on AR experiences and learn a little bit about how augmented reality works on mobile devices. Interestingly, at the Microsoft conference, which again, I've forgotten what it's called, but at Ignite, they were using, when they talked about their AR functionality, they were using iPads to show those off. And so Apple is doing a really good job with ARKit. It's clear. And that functionality is pretty good. It's pretty good on these devices. So that is Adobe Aero. And if you've got a Creative Cloud subscription, check that out. All right, so you are showing us I forgot
Playground AR. Okay. It's called Playground AR, and essentially you just have all these different things. You can set them up on the floor. I would demo it, but I don't really have a lot of clear floor space in my recording studio. I'm sitting in it, so it's hard to demo for me. But it's really nice. It's a very simple game. You can set up anything you like. And then you can just have it do whatever you want. So you can stack things up if you want. It was something, I think I saw it on Reddit. The developer got permission to post it when that iOS update came out with AR support. And it's just really nice to have if you've got time to kill on like a table or a flat surface, a balcony, a piece of floor, anything. And you can build all these things up. And yeah, I believe now you should be able to put something down. There you go. Now you can put down a block.
Putting down a toy block. Yes, I am. And I'm building a toy block. Yes, oh my goodness, I already love this.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And also, especially with the holiday season coming up, this is great to keep any members of the family entertained, not just the younger ones. Because you can build stuff up and knock it down, and everybody's a fan because they don't have to tidy it up.
How do I knock it down?
You should be able to find bombs and cars and all sorts of things.
If I switch to hand, does it let me like hit it?
Maybe. I'm not quite sure. But you can definitely add other things like cars and stuff. Yeah. There you go.
Okay, this is fun. So that's one tool there. Oh, a hammer. Oh, that's how you build. I got it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. There we go. Let's just go ahead and make a meteorite come down and attack everything. Whoa. Oh my
Yes.
goodness, I love this already. This is fantastic.
So much fun and zero tidy up afterwards, which is why I love it so much.
What else is here?
I think you have
an
cars
alien.
and all sorts of things. I usually do the dominoes and just line up tons of dominoes on the floor.
Wait, what's this controller thing up above?
Just- I think you've just put a spaceship down. And
Oh.
now.
Zzz. Oh, I see. Now I've got these tools to make it go, oh my goodness, this is so fun.
Yeah.
And I bet I can
This
make
is
it.
my AR experience.
Yeah, this is the extent of my AR experience as well. I don't really do all of the fancy stuff. Oh wow, and you could, which it's off the screen now, and I don't know how to get it back. But if it was back over here, it looks like you can use the spaceship to bring a little hook down to grab things and lift them up. That is so much fun. So that we will include in the show notes as well. And it is called Playground AR for, was it $3.99? I think I saw.
Yeah, I think so.
Which I can already tell is definitely worth it for hours of entertainment. It'll be funny to put them near my dogs and see what happens when they won't know, but there's going to be a meteorite hitting nearby. Oh, my iPad is not wanting to readjust. I tell you what.
And then you can screen record it and show how calm your dogs are in the face of a meteorite strike.
Yes, they actually came from Area 51, so they're used to it. They're good to go. Now, Apple TV Plus has launched, and folks have been really talking up the streaming quality. It is a high bitrate stream. Have you watched any of the Apple TV shows?
I was actually out pretty much all weekend. I really wanted to sit down. I wanted to try and watch the morning show. I was in the UK this weekend, and Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon were both on the late night Friday show on the BBC that I've forgotten the name of, talking about it. And it looks really interesting. And I've heard great things about pretty much all of the programs. I've heard from, obviously, some people don't like some things and some people love others. But I was just interested in the concept of the morning show, and also Ghostwriter just sounds intriguing.
I thought so too, yeah.
So I'm very, very intrigued by that. And I'm really pleased that as a current student, I will get it included in my Apple Music price of $4.99 a month.
Nice.
So I'll get Apple Music and Apple TV. And I think that's a really nice deal for students. Of course, if you've recently bought an iPhone or an iPad or something similar, then you'll get a free year of Apple TV anyway. But it's nice that they're bundling it in for students who generally have less money.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Some of the other shows, so we've got the morning show, C, which is the Jason Momoa show, For All Mankind, which is the one about Russia winning the space race instead of the United States. The Elephant Queen, it's a documentary about elephants, which I can't wait to watch, but I'm probably going to bawl my eyes out. Helpsters, which I think is a Sesame Street type show, which I'll also watch and bawl my eyes out. No, I'm kidding. Ghostwriter, Snoopy in Space, and last but not least, Oprah's Book Club, which is a talk show. And that will be coming soon. I think that's, coming soon still. And then there are a few others that'll be coming a little bit later, including an M. Night film that we'll see what twist he's included in that show. That's a fascinating show, it looks like, so far from what we've seen. So yeah, that's Apple TV Plus, and it's here. And I have not had a chance myself to watch any of the shows, but because I want to give them my time and attention, particularly the morning show, because Steve Carell is my fave. So I know that this is not a comedy, but anything Steve Carell does, I got to watch it, and so I'll be watching that soon. Last but not least, in the news section, Microsoft has launched an Office app. It's just called, I think it might be called Office Mobile, but it's definitely called Office. Or Office is in there. And it is one iOS app to rule them all. It's got Word, Excel, and PowerPoint all wrapped into one. And I was thinking about you with this because it feels like a real productivity suite, but you have to be in that camp of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Have you used the Microsoft Office stuff, or do you use Google Docs pretty exclusively, or Google Drive?
I actually more use Quip than either Office or Google Docs because I like Quip better. It supports Markdown, and I'm a big Markdown fan.
Yes.
I heard about this app, but I couldn't actually find it on my app store. So I'm not sure if it's not available in the UK yet, or if I missed the upcoming release date of it. But I was intrigued by it because Microsoft had been doing a lot of sort of behind the scenes stuff in the productivity sector. They've got Microsoft Flow, which is like If This and That or Zapier, and practically nobody knows about it, but it's actually really good. And so it would be, I'm intrigued to see this because I do use Office, but mostly for work things. And honestly, I don't need 3 Office apps on my iPad plus OneDrive, so that's 4. When I very rarely edit docs on there, and most of the time I just look at them. So a single Office app would be great.
Yeah. Oh, and I should be clear. That was something that I was not clear on. It is only available in beta right now. It's in public preview on Android, and the first day that they had it available via test flight for iOS, all 10,000 of the slots were taken up. So you can't currently beta test it on iOS. You can beta test it on Android, but it will be coming soon to let you use all those documents in one place. Yeah, at the Ignite conference on Monday, we learned a little bit about Microsoft's workflow stuff, their Zapier IFTTT stuff, which I thought was pretty cool. Which, by the way, disclosure that Zapier is a sponsor of our network, and we use Zapier here for lots of different things. But Microsoft is working on a flow document of their own, which I think is interesting. Yeah, so I'm curious. I think sometimes when apps get all bundled up together, it can get a little messy and be a bit of an issue. But then there's some that pull it off. And I guess Quip is one of those examples. I think that they do a good job of having all of it in one and making it very easy to search between them. I didn't know that you used Quip. I think Quip is a great app for documentation. And like you said, it supports Markdown, which we love.
Oh, yes. Yeah, and it works nicely with Zapier, which also sponsors Automators, I should disclose, but it works really nicely, and all of the Automator show documents are automatically created for us based on our Airtable setup and a little bit of Zapier magic, and they just appear in Quip.
Excellent. Yeah, so that covers that, and let's go ahead, and we are almost done here, but there was a little bit of feedback that I wanted to touch on, and I see Burke is not in here, but maybe someone else would be able to answer this question. So Vivian from Australia said, we're currently watching episode 470 and notice the quilt in the background, which has been in the background on most of the last few episodes. In fact, I think it's usually in the background. Can you please send a picture of the whole quilt and who the quilter was? I'm a patchwork quilter and would love to know the background of where, who made it, etc. So here, excellent. So we've got actually, this is kind of nice. There's on the back of the quilt is a little iOS notes document that has the information here. Made by Frances Monroe from Palo Alto, California, quilted by Julie Curry in August of 2010. So I assume the design was made by Frances Monroe, and then it was actually put together by Julie Curry. Thank you very much. So yes, Vivian, I will be sure that we get a photo of that and send it to you. It's pretty nifty back there. And in fact, we were redoing the set recently and adjusting lighting and things like that. And there was a question of if the quilt should remain. And I said, yes, the quilt must remain, even though it's got the lickable icons. It's very old school. But come on, somebody made a quilt. That's awesome. So thank you, Vivian, for writing in all the way from Australia. It was funny, Vivian said not from somewhere in Indiana because Rosemary, this is a little bit of an inside joke, but basically anytime someone sends feedback or a question and they don't include their location, I just say they're from somewhere in Indiana. So Vivian said, no, I'm from Australia, doggone it, and you have to tell them about it. So thank you, Vivian, for writing in. We'll get you that photo. All right. It's here. It's time. Let's put on those hats because it's time to celebrate our app caps, those apps we love this week. Ba-bum, ba-bum. I am very excited to be wearing this hat today that I have donned from the Red Hat Conference. Our awesome Brooke Stewart, shout out, made sure that I could that I had this hat. I think she said it was from France, where the Red Hat Conference was taking place. And so, yeah, an app cap of my very own, which I'm very excited to be wearing here. And Rosemary, I love your hat.
It's actually on sideways so everybody can see the bow. I just picked this up at a shop by a beach in Greece, and it's really useful in the summer. So it's my app cap for the day.
It's very royal. It reminds me of a queen-like hat, and it's quite nice. So of course we wear apps, silly hats. We wear apps? No, we wear caps to celebrate the apps that we enjoy, and the app, Rosemary, that you have picked for this week. Tell us about it.
I have picked Dark Noise as my app for the week. Dark Noise is one of those wonderful white noise applications. It was made relatively recently, so it's using all of the nice modern iOS, design patterns and everything. Because there's nothing worse than looking at an app going, God, this is ugly, especially when you're trying to fall asleep. And I like to listen to rain sounds as I fall asleep. And it's very simple. You can favorite different sounds to put them to the top, and it has shortcut support. So I actually have a shortcut that I run when I'm in bed, and it turns off all of the lights and everything. And it does a few other things in the background, like check whether or not I've got early morning appointments to make sure that my day is set up, my alarm is set, and I know that I have a 8 a.m. meeting at work, for example. And then it asks me if I want rain, no sound, or another sound. And if I want rain, then it just plays the rain sound for 30 minutes and then turns it off. And if I want another sound, then it lets me pick it.
It lets you pick the sound? How does it do?
In the short. So iOS 13 added shortcuts with parameters, and as a parameter option, you have all of the different sounds there, which is really useful. And I really like it. It works really, really well. And when I am looking at the interface, I do not want to gouge out my eyes, which is so important. Well, when you're about to go to sleep, the last thing you want to do is be annoyed by the user interface of an app.
Right.
And I just find this is really nice. And I'm on the beta, and they're currently adding support to blend different sounds together. So you can have, for example, thunder and a creak at the same time. You can also listen to a spaceship.
Campfire. Oh, let me find the spaceship. Let's see.
There's a cat purring as an option.
I don't hear this. Oh, now I hear it. There's spaceship engine. Here's cat purring. Oh.
Yeah. There's even a human snoring. If you usually sleep next to a snoring human and for some reason they're not available to do their usual snoring to lull you to sleep.
Oh, man, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like coffee
if
shop.
You need it. Yeah. These are really great for when you just need some white noise in the background as well. And I really like the app. It's really good. And it integrates with everything else I do, because everything I do is done by shortcuts.
Yeah, you need to do, what is it, S, lowercase a, lowercase a-s, but it's shortcuts as a service. And I will just hire you to please make all of these great shortcuts for me, because so turning off this is exactly what I want in my life. You say you turn off the lights, you play, beautiful, look, maybe I just need to hire Kevin to shortcut my life. You turn off the lights, you play the music that you want, and you even have it say, oh, you have an early morning calendar appointment tomorrow, so you might need to change your alarm or something like that. Yeah. That is so great. That's awesome.
I'll send you the link to my shortcut.
Please do. That's fantastic. And maybe I'll say, do you also have one that does this? and then we'll be able to collaborate there. That is Dark Noise. It is available in the iOS App Store for $3.99. It looks like it's just a one-time purchase, and by getting that, you get all of the library of tools. But I think kind of the big thing there is the fact that it can be automated in the way. Oh, and it's made by somebody from St. Louis, Charlie Chapman from St. Louis. That's back home, St. Louis, Missouri. I'm from Missouri as well, so that's why I'm excited about it. Thank you, Charlie Chapman. Thank you, Rosemary, for that app. I'm going to talk... wait, was this... I thought... What am I doing for... Okay, sorry. I have two objects that I wanted to talk about, and I got confused because I thought that the object that I wanted to talk about was my Mac break pick, but apparently I chose it as my iOS Today app cap and not my Mac break pick. So John the Wonderful is grabbing it for me right now, and I hope that I brought my Mac break pick for later. I might have to pick something else. So this is a little bit of a cheat because it is an app, but it is also a device. And let me take off this sticker on the front that says Mikah's Mac Break Weekly Pick, which it is not. This is called the Whistle Go Explore. And this is a device that allows you, it goes on your pet, and it allows you to GPS track and activity monitor your pet. So this little device here has a built-in, it's cell service GPS, and it will track your pet regardless of where your pet happens to be. And so it's a little bit better than some of those tracking systems out there that require other subscribers to be there and have Bluetooth within range. You don't need to rely on any of them. You pay a monthly subscription and it gives you access to the GPS chip. And in fact, when I was on my way this morning, because I hadn't set up yet the work location as a safe location, it texted me and sent me a push notification because I didn't turn that other one off to let me know, hey, I've got this one set up for one of my dogs, Mizzy. And it said, hey, Mizzy is currently outside of her safe space and you should be alerted by that. And so I did take this apart a little bit. The box is not in its original form in the sense that you're going to see some messy stuff underneath, but they really do a good job with the packaging. So just ignore that. And that's because I wanted to show what it looked like. And it comes with a charging cable. And in fact, I thought this was kind of interesting. The charging cable has a reset button right there on the actual USB port so that you can reset the device. And that's so that there aren't any points of ingress for the actual device itself. That way it doesn't get into your, the dog can run through water and stuff like that without there being an issue. So it comes with a few different options for how to clip it on. This is a clip that has this back plate clicks onto the front plate, and so it goes on one side of the collar, and then this part goes on the other. And then you take this, you put it on, and you turn it, and it locks into place. And then, of course, this goes around the dog's neck. Now, it's worth saying that when you have small dogs, this is quite a big wart to have to put on a small dog. On a big dog, that's hardly any bit of an issue. And so that is one thing that I sort of talked to Whistle about is, hey, a lot of people have small dogs that they want to track too. Maybe we could work on slimming down the design. So hopefully that's something that they will be working on soon. No official news there, but yeah, that's something that I'm got my fingers crossed for sure. And so let me get the app loaded up. In fact, I already do. Well, let me get back out of that. Oh, hold on. I want to be able to show, okay, yeah, I can show this. So our work address is a public address that's available. And right now you can see this blue light flashing. That's because it's currently saying, hey, I know that you are looking at the device to see where your Mizzy is, and it's tracking. But what's super cool about the Whistle Go Explore is that it also has a built-in flashlight. And so at night, if you're walking your dog, you can set it up to do a slow flash so that people can see your dog. So you can see that really bright LED light, or there's a fast flash as well, and then there is an always on option. And so it helps the dog be able to see a little bit better, but then it also helps you see where your dog is and helps other people see your dog, which makes it pretty great. And the new feature that they just added that I think makes this, well, let me go ahead and turn off that light really quickly, that they just added that I think makes this fantastic is the built-in health stuff. This is brand new. It's health insights. And so because of the accelerometer and everything that's built into the device, they've put together profiles of dogs and how they interact with themselves to figure out what it feels like when a dog is scratching itself, what it feels like when a dog is licking itself, and then also provides information for their activity. And so if you have a dog that suddenly starts scratching or licking itself more so than it normally does, the app can alert you. And it turns out that the top reason that folks go to their vet is for skin conditions. Skin is the like biggest failure point on a dog. It is the thing that most often ends up having an issue that you end up going to the vet for. So it's good to have this insight here to know, hey, my dog is doing a lot of scratching or doing a lot of licking. And what's also cool is that if I go to the vet and we get some, medicine for the dog, and then the vet says, hey, that's great that you have this medicine, but let me know if it's not working. You can actually email the vet a health report, and the vet can then see, okay, it's clear that this medicine isn't working. Bring the dog back in. It might be something else, or it might be that this medicine was not right for the dog. So all of that information is available. You can see the dog here, which I just chose a quick picture. So that's not the most beautiful picture of Mizzy because she looks a little sad there, but I promise she's a happy, happy dog. And it will even show their activity and stuff like that. So then over time, you can track their activity. Hey, I really want this dog to get 30 to 60 minutes of exercise in a given day, etc. The battery lasts a very, very long time. And I wish I had that quotable on hand right now, but it is chargeable, like I said, with the included charger that it comes with. And then the subscription is what allows you to be able to access it over time. And so this will renew, it says on December 3rd. So each month it charges the card and keeps that chip active. They use the AT&T network for their tracking system. So there are lots of different ways to track your animal. And I've seen multiple devices that do it, but there aren't many out there that do it with GPS and that do it with something as small as this. There are a few collars out there, but they're huge and bulky, and my Chihuahua and my Chihuahua Rat Terrier are a little too small for that. And honestly, this is still a little bit big, but it is incredibly lightweight. I don't know what to compare it to, but like maybe 2 pennies in my hand is about how heavy this thing is. And so it's a very, very, very lightweight device. So it doesn't pull on her or anything like that. It doesn't weigh her down at all. It's just kind of big. And so hopefully, like I said, they're working on something that's a little bit smaller that will improve that. But if you have a dog and you are, you have that concern of the dog getting out, getting lost, and you want to be able to find your dog and don't want to rely on Bluetooth or something like that and hoping that enough people have that connection, definitely check out the Whistle. It's called the Whistle Go Explorer by Whistle. The Go Explorer has the included light on it, but you don't have to have the light version. There's, I think, just the Whistle Go, which is like the Whistle Go Explorer, but no light, but offers those health tracking features that I mentioned earlier. I think it was very smart of Whistle to, like I said, figure out those health profiles and know, okay, people go to their vet a lot for health or for skin conditions. Let's see if we can't track that and better provide that information. And the story that they told me, this was at PepCom we recently went to, and the story that the person there told me was that they used it and figured out that the dog walker they were paying was walking the dog. They have some office dogs, obviously, as you would as a pet device maker, was walking one of the dogs to a house, presumably where the dog walker lived, and then keeping the dog in the house while they did whatever they wanted to do. They were not walking the dog on the agreed upon route or for the agreed upon time. And so they were kind of able to tell when somebody was cheating the dog walking system. So if you have a dog walker too, and you just want that peace of mind of making sure that your dog is going to be returned to you, or if you want to make sure that they're actually walking your dog, it can also be used for that. But that's the Whistle Go Explorer, $130, one-time price, and then a subscription to keep tracking throughout time. And you can see there are badges and things like that your dog can earn as they continue to be active. That is the Whistle Go Explorer. And I can tell that there's still a fireplace playing in the background. Thank you very much, Dark Noise. We appreciate the ambiance, as it were. Rosemary Orchard, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been great fun, and I do love your cap for your app. So,
well, thank you very much. If people are looking to find you online, how can they do so?
easiest thing to do is go to rosemaryorchard.com. That links to everything that I do. And yes, that's where I live on the internet.
Curly brackets. I like that.
I am a coder.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. If you would like to get in touch with the show, leave your feedback, your questions, your thoughts, your concerns, or look for the address to send an app cap my way or Leo's way, but my way is more important. You can send us a video at iostoday@twit.tv. If you want to do, like I said, you can send your text. We love audio and video. In fact, we are almost out of feedback and questions. So definitely, if you have sent in a question before and you're wondering, oh, should I do it again? Should I let somebody else do it? I don't care. I want them. Send them my way. Let's have them. I'm ready to answer them. We are excited about it. If you want to send a video, record it on your device, record it however you want to, and try to keep it to about 30 seconds or so. You can upload that to YouTube as an unlisted or private link. Well, unlisted is the best way to do that. Send us the unlisted link, or you can just upload it to Dropbox and share that link from there, or get in touch with me via email if you would like to send an email or send a video and you're not exactly sure how to. Happy to answer that question for you. I'm Mikah at twit.tv, MIKAH at twit.tv. Happy to answer it there. Don't worry, my email's already out there with all the spammers, so I haven't doxed myself. Thank you so much for sending in your feedback and questions. If you'd like to watch live, we record the show live every Tuesday at about 9 a.m. Pacific time, which is about 1 p.m. Eastern. You can head to twit.tv/live so you can see the different ways that we stream on the different platforms and watch it right there, and hang out with us in the chat. That is at irc.twit.tv is the way that you get to the chat, and go there. And by the way, I am seeing some questions from folks in the chat, and presumably those questions would also be asked from listeners of the show. Leo is still an iOS todayer. He's just on vacation right now. He'll be back. And when he comes back, then I'll get to razz him about being late when we do the show at 9:30 a.m. Pacific instead of 9 a.m. Pacific. Love you, Leo. But I've got on this red hat, so I got to be a little bit squirrely. You can join the show live. You can come hang out with us at 9 in the morning if you'd like to. You just email tickets at twit.tv, and they'll get you set up, get you figured out to come join the show live. And I don't know, clap and laugh and all those kinds of things. You also get to pick out the app caps when that happens. So we love it when you can come be with us live. And of course, most importantly, you're listening to the show. If you're not subscribed, you got to do that. If you head to twit.tv/iOS, you'll see there are plenty of links to all the ways you can subscribe to the show. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, whatever. You can subscribe to audio. You can subscribe to the video version of the show. We need to edit that voicemail phone number that's up there because we don't have access to that. So pretend that doesn't exist, but everything else there is good to go. And of course, if you want to join the community, and Rosemary, I encourage, if you'd like to be there, you head to twit.community and sign up for an account. And if you do, Rosemary, I'm sure you're going to get people going, you are good at shortcuts. Can you tell me how to make a shortcut for this? But we love twit.community. It's a forum. It's a great place for you to get in touch with the shows. After a show is published, then a little subject pops up, a topic pops up for that show in particular. So you can leave your thoughts. And so if you're not able to join us live via studio or by watching live on the stream, then that is a great way to leave your thoughts without having to join us live and leave your thoughts then. Thanks so very much for listening or watching this week's episode of iOS Today. It's time to go. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.